Thank you for tuning in once again to his Vine and Fig Tree podcast. My name is Kurt Olson. I'm your host. I'm coming to you on October 1st, 2025. Um, and it's been a couple weeks since my last video. We were in between the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the memorial service. I want to give a little bit of time to that, but there's a couple things I want to get out of the way here quickly. One, the TikTok rapture. The guy who said from South Africa, who insisted that the rapture of the church was happening on September 23rd and 24th, and he was wrong. And then he defiantly came back and said, oh, it's happening the 6th. One thing we know for sure, it's not happening the 6th. No one knows the time or the day. And I don't know why people play these stupid games that people get caught up in. Um, uh, don't pay any attention to that nonsense that's rolling around on social media. Secondly, yesterday, Donald Trump, President Trump, um, was in the Oval Office with the head of Pfizer and was pushing an agreement that focused on vaccines. In the description to this podcast, I'm going to leave with you an Instagram conversation that I came across probably 4 or 6 months ago, and I saved it for a moment just like this, where John Rich, the country musician John Rich, is talking. I don't know if it's a podcast or radio show. It's something. There's multiple guys there, and you would see that by watching it. And he explains how he answered President Trump when he was asked specifically why people are booing him when he brings up the COVID vaccines. I'm going to let John Rich tell this story. There are some elements of it that are a bit humorous. Um, it runs probably 6 minutes or thereabouts. Um, and I agree with John Rich when he calls these people murderous psychopaths. And I know a lot of people don't like any conversation about COVID. It was an ugly time. It's in the past. Some people might still be dealing with some things related to it, whether it's a negative effect of the vaccine or something else. So people just don't want any more conversation about it. But we have failed to do accountability in this country. And we have failed to do accountability because of what's going on right now. We have a legislature that's dysfunctional. We have a government shutdown going on. I don't have a problem with the government shutdown. Um, I think the government should be shut down more often. But uh, the we have not had accountability for COVID because our Congress is dysfunctional, and the current things that are happening there right now are just signs of, in further indication, evidence of the dysfunction that exists in the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. So, with all that said, I agree emphatically with John Rich. Now, I'm not an entertainer like him, but um, there's a whole lot about the COVID vaccines that need to come to an understanding of fact and fiction, and that has yet to happen. And for this president to dip his toes yet again into doing business with Pfizer is crazy. I'll leave that at that. Um, but I would encourage you to watch this conversation John Rich has with a few guys as he's talking about specifically the COVID vaccines. Um, the Charlie Kirk Memorial. I've done 2 podcasts. The first was the gut reaction. I did a second one a couple weeks ago on all things related to the Charlie Kirk assassination issues. Um, and I have written an open letter to Erica Kirk. If you read that, thank you for doing so. It's a very personal perspective that my family shares with her. And I have written a column this past Sunday, the 28th, on this fascination with the R word, revival, that we now have going on. And I explain in that column why I believe we cannot call it revival yet. Um, and I'm just going to leave that there. But some thoughts on the memorial. Okay, so the memorial happened on a Sunday. I was kind of following some NFL football while also listening by headphone to uh, the memorial service live. And first of all, this has to be the longest memorial service in recorded human history. Went 5 hours. It didn't need to go 5 hours, but it did. My other impression is this. There were multiple members of the cabinet, the presidential cabinet, Trump 2, who felt they needed to speak, and I don't know why. We could have gotten by with just J.D. Vance. He was good friends with Charlie Kirk, and uh, Charlie's body was transferred back home on Air Force Two. That made sense. Marco Rubio made sense. Just an amazing gospel presentation in 90 seconds. And then the other one who I felt was a legitimate member of the cabinet to speak was um, uh, Dio SecDef Pete Hegseth. Pardon me. Um, Everybody else, RFK Jr., Stephen Miller, Donald Trump Jr., and the president, they didn't need to speak. Um, the president made this. I think he was trying to be funny when he said, um, "I hate my enemies." Sorry, Erica. Um, I I think he was trying to be funny, but that was not the venue for that joke or an attempt at humor. Um, it was just bad all around that way. Um, I didn't think Don Jr. added anything to. Stephen Miller certainly didn't, and RFK Jr. didn't need to speak either. So I thought there were way too many people, specifically from the cabinet, who spoke. Um, with all that said, um, I think I will share this video with you because I'm also going to talk briefly about Vodi Baucham here in just a little bit. Vodi Baucham's nephew, one of his nephews, attended the Charlie Kirk Memorial, and he gave some what I thought were some pretty on spot perspectives related to that memorial service and what was going on. Um, I'll have that linked in the description to the podcast as well. Um, We have yet to see the dust settle. There's been talk of 30 some thousand Turning Point USA chapters starting in this country on college campuses and high school campuses. Um, okay, dust. The dust is still there. It hasn't settled yet. Um, I will refrain from using the R word revival talk until such time as I see that it looks like it's happened. Because that is a word that has meaning. People of my generation in the church and older, boomers, um, have been praying for revival in this country for a long time, my entire lifetime, and longer, I suspect. And just because there's this, I think some of what we're seeing is emotional response and legitimate emotional response, and other things that we are seeing are legitimate spiritual response. Um, Again, we've yet to see the dust settle on where all of this leads. Um, and I, uh, I just the one thing people can do who are thriving to go to a church at the request of Erica Kirk and others, find a Bible believing church. Find a church that has two, three, four, 500 people, has focused on evangelism, focused on ministry, focused on missions, focused on serving their community. And and I don't say this because I loathe mega churches. I'm just not a fan of them. I'm just not. The multi-campus uh, whatever. I'm just not a fan of. Um, and I know there's a lot of churches in this country that follow that model. Um, but my family doesn't do that, and that's perhaps one of the things that shades my perspective on this. But I've never been a fan of mega churches. I was part of one for a while when I was a student at Liberty University, Thomas Road Baptist Church. But I just I just am not a fan. The largest church my family has ever attended with any regularity was in Round Rock, Texas, where we attended Central Baptist of Round Rock. And that church was 1,100 people. They had two services, early service, later service. And between the two, they averaged between 1,000 and 1,100 people. And we loved our time there. Yes, it was a large church, but we got involved in my wife and I got involved in an adult Bible fellowship with some specific people. Our kids connected with some folks through that and other things, and um, it, it worked while we were there. Um, but the churches that I have been a part of in my time have been um, some of the churches around here, less than 100 people. And then when we were in Northeast Ohio, that church, Calvary Fellowship Baptist, was, doing 100, 120, 130 people. And these days it's not doing that. But that was that church. When we were in South Carolina, Three Rivers Baptist Church, that's a church of 200 to 300 people. where we're attending right now, Hillcrest Baptist Church, 200 to 300 people. So I mean that's where I land. But find a Bible believing church. Find find a church where the pastor goes through passages and uh, does uh, exegesis of scripture, uh, and explains um, context and history, and uh, brings it alive with some application. And those churches exist all over the place. So if you are one of those people that, as a result of the Charlie Kirk assassination, has been itching to get into a church, come to mine. Look me up, direct message me. I'll meet you at the door. Um, and gladly so. But find a Bible believing church. Um, um, my wife and I were traveling last weekend in a location in upstate New York, further east from where we are here in Western New York. And I was just, and we didn't go on every street in this village, um, but I was just struck how I did not see quality Bible believing churches. Um, and that's probably a symptom of being in a blue state. I don't know. I don't know. But I just by looking at churches and the marquees, I didn't see them. I didn't see churches I would give any time to. Um, and then my wife and I attended Genesis Bible Church in Scioto, New York, on Wednesday, or not Wednesday, on Sunday, just connecting with a college friend and his family, who my family has gotten to know over time. And Genesis Bible Church is busting at the seams. They got 300 people, and they got all age groups. They're involved in evangelism and ministry and all kinds of stuff. And so if you're out that way in Allegheny County, Belmont, Bolivar, Richburg, Friendship, uh, those places, go see Pastor Mark at Genesis Bible Church. So, but that's the best reaction I can give you to this. But I would encourage you to see Vodi Baucham's nephew. That video, it runs 4 to 5 minutes. That will be in the comments. Last thing I want to share with you. In recent months, we've had deaths of some rather prominent fixtures in the American church. Um, okay, Charlie Kirk, that's known. He was assassinated. But I'm talking about the deaths of people in ministry. Pastor John MacArthur from California, the ministry Grace to You. James Dobson, the former head of and founder of Focus on the Family. And late last week, Vodi Baucham. Now, John MacArthur, when I was at Liberty, I heard him speak at least twice. There may have been 3 or 4 times. Found it a privilege to be under his teaching when that happened. Um, a guy certainly not flawless. I'm not suggesting that he was, and even I'm sure his wife and children wouldn't say that John MacArthur was flawless. But a guy who I learned a lot from, and I started using the New American Standard Bible mainly because I found out that he used it. and other pastors who I had come to respect. Um, and so John MacArthur, James Dobson. I mean, my mom got the book Raising Boys from James Dobson and listened to uh, James Dobson on the radio many times while my brother and I were growing up. And uh, the guy had not a lot of impact on right of center evangelical political activity in this country in the past, 30, 40 years. Um, and a lot of people said some really bizarre things about him when he died. That he was, like, he had people spellbound or something. And I'm probably being too cavalier with uh, some of that phrasing, but that's how it came across to me. Eh, that's ridiculous. Uh, James Dobson was a solid guy. I know he knew Pete Maravich, the former guy from the NBA, and even said some things when Pete Maravich died. Um, um, Charlie Kirk, enough has been said at this point, and I was traveling last Thursday night with my wife, and when we got into where we were settling for a couple days, my son drops a text to me that Vody Baucham died. And Vody Baucham, this is a guy I've gotten to know in the last probably 5 years, especially during COVID. And since really got focused on him a whole lot more during the Black Lives Matter protests, read his book Fault Lines. I know a lot of people in the church don't think that book added a lot to the substance of the conversation. Um, I don't care because I like Vody Baucham, and I thought what he was saying was the truth about critical theory, um, where that was leading our country, and the dangers it was presenting to not only the country but the church in the United States of America. Um, I would when I found out that Vody Baucham died, I was heartbroken. And I know he had a heart issue and an operation during COVID. But this was a guy who did an awful lot of sacrificing. Yeah, he was in ministry here in the United States, but at one point he was involved in a ministry in Zambia, Africa, and you don't do that just on a whim. Um, and he was still in ministry there when he developed the heart issue and had to have surgery. And uh, I guess this is my way of offering a tribute to MacArthur and Dobson and Vody Baucham. I'm not Pentecostal. Jimmy Swaggart's been in this group as well. I'm not Pentecostal. Okay, Jimmy Swaggart died, and yes, I recognize that he was part. He's been a part of the church in America and ministry for a long time. But these three, John MacArthur, James Dobson, Vody Baucham, have had impact on me specifically over the past 30, 40 years at varying points in time. And I've seen a lot of content from Vody Baucham, and I really wished I'd been aware of him and following him a whole lot sooner than I did. Um, and there's going to be a memorial at Oak Cliff Bible Church in Dallas on, I believe it's October 10th for him. Um, and but that's the kind of stuff that's been going on here in recent days. Um, I could talk more about the government shutdown, but I've said enough about it. It's government dysfunction. Um, and the Democrats want to fund health care for illegal immigrants. That's the hill they're dying on. Good luck with that, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and the whole lot of you. Good luck with that. I don't think it's going to pass the smell test with the American people. Um, but and I could say some things about the meeting that Pete Hegseth had with generals yesterday. I have my own thoughts on not only what he said, but some of the other things that I think are going on that are unsaid. But that's all I have for this week. Um, we are on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. Have a new column I am dropping on Sunday that pertains to my little getaway this past weekend. And um, this podcast is about freedom. It's about Americans who love freedom and liberty. And it requires eternal vigilance. It requires watching government and what they do and what that looks like. And I would encourage people, especially in these days with the events that have been happening, we need sanity to prevail. We need spiritual clarity and moral clarity to prevail, because we have people that are doing senseless things in our country that involve the deaths of people. We've seen it not just with Charlie Kirk. We've seen it in Minnesota. We've seen it in Michigan. We've seen it in North Carolina. We've seen it in a variety of other places. And there's a lot going on that point to problems with individuals in our country. And I, I think these people desperately need Christ, and we need to do what we can to help them get there. And until next time, God bless and goodbye.